Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, US President Donald Trump speaks to his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin as Washington, D.C. seeks to end the 3-year-old Ukraine conflict. The UK and the EU clinch a post-Brexit reset deal, agree on trade, fishing rights and defence cooperation. The British Prime Minister calls it a win-win deal. Foreign Secretary briefs a parliamentary committee on Operation Sindoor, says the conflict strictly remained within the conventional military domain. And India's superior air defence system foiled Pakistan's bid to target Golden Temple, the holiest Sikh shrine at Amritsar, for sowing communal discord. Pakistan sought to target the holiest Sikh shrine in India's Amritsar city with missiles and drones on the 8th of May in an attempt to sow communal discord in the country. But an ever-vigilant Indian military foiled the attempt thanks to its superior technological edge. Here's a report.
Yet another powerful testament to the capabilities and alertness of the Indian Defence Forces, who foiled a multi-pronged bid of the Pakistani military to inflict damage to the Golden Temple at Amritsar. Unveiling details of the Operation Sindoor, the Indian Army sources said that Pakistan tried to attack the Golden Temple using aerial arsenal while attempting a simultaneous infiltration bid to target the holiest Sikh shrine on May 8th and 9th. While the unmatched air defense systems deployed at the frontline areas intercepted all the aerial projectiles and drones, the alert soldiers repelled the infiltration attempt along the border. Soldiers who were part of the operation at the frontier said that the Indian Army was prepared for retaliatory Pakistani strikes after India decimated terror infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir on May 7th. It was predicted that Pakistan would retaliate by targeting defense facilities, but after failing to damage air bases and military installations for about 3 days, Pakistan began targeting civilian areas, including the Golden Temple, with kamikaze drones and rockets. But all air raids were intercepted and shot down with great precision by the Indian Defence Forces.
India's strong and decisive leadership, sharp diplomacy, economic prowess and military capability manifested in achievement of all political and military objectives with consummate professionalism and scoring an emphatic and decisive victory as part of Operation Sindoor. This should dissuade Pakistan military from any further misadventure. Moreover, Indian armed forces are acutely aware of Pakistan military's shortcomings, compulsions and all pressure points. If Pak military tries any misadventure, it will do it to its complete peril, and our fully prepared and motivated armed forces with modern weapons and superior combat capability will give it an annihilating response next time.
India's Ministry of Defence says Operation Sindoor marks a turning point in the country's defence doctrine, with services synergy, strategic depth and technological dominance. India executed precision strikes on targets such as the Noor Khan and Rahim Yar Khan air bases, deployed a carrier battle group for naval dominance, and coordinated the ground operations between the Indian Army and the Border Security Force, demonstrating multi-domain warfare. On Monday, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri briefed a parliamentary committee on external affairs on the developments regarding India and Pakistan.
This was a very, very thorough discussion. Many of the MPs had thoughtful questions to ask. There was even a desire to have a resolution expressing solidarity with the Foreign Secretary in the face of the unwarranted attacks upon him. He himself requested there should be no resolution, but it was a unanimous sentiment of the committee that he has performed a good service for the nation, and we all stand with him. And that was not a formal resolution, but it was definitely the wish of everyone. I also want to add that the committee has in many ways covered a lot of constructive ground and has left with satisfactory responses to various questions.
Those present at the briefing included Ravi Shankar Prasad and Bijayant Panda of BJP, Shashi Tharoor and Rajiv Shukla of the Congress, Sanjay Jha of JDU, and Shiv Sena's Shrikant Shinde was also present. AIMIM's Asauddin Owaisi also attended the briefing. Meanwhile, New Delhi is dispatching 7 bipartisan delegations comprising lawmakers to key world capitals to brief foreign governments on Pakistan-sponsored cross-border terrorism. Bureau Report, DD India.
The International Monetary Fund has imposed 11 new conditions on Pakistan for its bailout program, taking the total number of conditions to 50. Tripti Tripathi reports.
Though Pakistan managed to walk away with the $1 billion tranche of economic bailout amount from the International Monetary Fund recently, amidst clear proof of harboring terrorists and nurturing terrorists, some even UN designated, on its soil, the road ahead may not be that smooth. Global financial agency IMF now has imposed 11 fresh sets of conditions on Pakistan for disbursal of further tranches of the $7 billion bailout package. Non-compliance of these norms would pose hurdles in future disbursals, which can further deepen Pakistan's economic and political challenges. Here's a look at the new conditions. Pakistan must pass a federal budget of Pakistani rupees 17.6 trillion, which is approximately $63 billion for the financial year 2025-26 through Parliament by June 2025, with 1.07 trillion Pakistani rupees allocated for development expenditure. Second set focuses on implementing a new agricultural income tax law in all 4 provinces by June 2025, ensuring taxpayer registration, return processing, and compliance through digital platforms. To maintain the real purchasing power of the people of the nation, IMF has directed Pakistan to give annual inflation adjustment of the unconditional cash transfer program. The Pakistan government is directed to publish a governance action plan based on the recommendations from the IMF's governance diagnostic assessment to identify reform measures. IMF has directed Pakistan to develop a long-term financial sector strategy for the post-2027 period, including regulatory and institutional reforms starting in 2028. In the energy sector, 4 new conditions have been introduced. The government will issue notifications of the annual electricity tariff rebasing by July 1st of this year to maintain energy tariffs at cost recovery levels. It will also issue a notification of the semi-annual gas tariff adjustment to maintain energy tariffs at cost recovery levels by February 15, 2026. Parliament will also adopt legislation to make the captive power levy ordinance permanent by the end of this month. This aims to shift industrial energy usage to the national grid. Parliament will also adopt legislation to remove the maximum 3.21 rupees per unit cap on the debt service surcharge. Policies must be implemented for climate change and disaster preparedness under the $1.4 billion Resilience and Sustainability Facility. Finally, in a consumer-friendly condition, the IMF has asked Pakistan to submit to the Parliament all required legislation for lifting all quantitative restrictions on the commercial importation of used motor vehicles for vehicles less than 5 years old by the end of July. The IMF and World Bank have highlighted that ineffective energy policies, along with poor governance, are contributing to the rise of circular debt, which eventually may render Pakistan incapable of paying back the loan. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripathi's report for DD India.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who is visiting the Netherlands, met with his Dutch counterpart Casper Welkamp in The Hague. Minister Jaishankar expressed his gratitude to Minister Welkamp for hosting him and appreciated the Netherlands' strong condemnation of the Pahalgam terror attack. In a post on X, the minister highlighted the key outcomes of the meeting, which included wide-ranging discussions aimed at deepening bilateral ties and enhancing engagement with the European Union. Earlier, Minister Jaishankar held discussions with strategic experts in The Hague. In a social media post, the minister said that he discussed the need for India, the Netherlands and European countries to engage more deeply in an era of multipolarity and strategic autonomy. The minister will also travel to Denmark and Germany. The UK and the European Union on Monday held a much-anticipated summit in London. The meeting took place in the backdrop of an unpredictable global dynamic created by the US. It's the UK's most significant reset of defence and trade ties with the EU since Brexit. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer hailed it as a win-win deal. For her part, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen called it a big day because the EU and the UK are now turning the page and opening a new chapter. Raghav Kumar Jha reports.
Britain and the European Union on Monday reached a landmark deal setting out closer ties on defence and trade, launching a new chapter after the UK's acrimonious exit from the bloc 5 years ago. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said it's a win-win deal and the reset in ties with UK's biggest trading partner would reduce red tape for food and agricultural producers, making food cheaper and improve energy security. In a statement, the Downing Street said the pact adds nearly £9 billion to the British economy by 2040.
We are agreeing a new strategic partnership, fit for our times, providing real tangible benefits on security, irregular migration, energy prices, agri-food, trade and more, bringing down bills, creating jobs and protecting our borders. We've delivered this progress through hard work together at every level.
5 years after Brexit, the Defence and Security Pact means Britain, a defence heavyweight, will take part in joint procurement projects. It also paves the way for the UK to access the Security Action for Europe, a £150 billion EU fund providing loans for defence projects. The two sides also agreed to lift controls imposed on UK exports to the 27-country bloc. On fishing, the new deal gives EU boats continued access to UK waters until 2038. In return, the UK gets reduced checks on food and drink traded with the bloc, making it easier for British products such as burgers and sausages to be sold in the EU. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen said it was a big day because EU and UK are now turning the page and opening a new chapter.
Indeed, this is a big day because we are now turning the page and opening a new chapter. A new chapter that is so important in these times because we see the rise of geopolitical tensions, but we are like-minded. We share the same values. We know that we work shoulder by shoulder, hand in hand, when it's really coming to crisis and difficult moments.
Trump's tariffs, amidst warnings that Europe act to protect itself, forced governments of the continent to rethink trade, defence and security ties, bringing British Prime Minister Starmer closer to France, Emmanuel Macron and other European leaders together. Is the third deal Britain has struck this month after agreements with India and the US, and while it's unlikely to lead a meaningful economic boost immediately, it could lift corporate sentiment, drawing the much-needed investment. Raghav Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Portugal and Romania election results are out. We decode the verdict for you. Israel reiterates that it will take control of all of Gaza.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times
on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. US President Donald Trump spoke to Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Monday about peace in Ukraine after Washington, D.C. said there was an impasse over ending Europe's deadliest conflict since the Second World War and that the US may have to walk away. Putin was speaking from Russia's Black Sea resort of Sochi while Trump was in Washington, D.C. Trump is pinning his hopes on a fresh personal appeal to Putin to get the Kremlin leader to agree to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire with Kyiv. Trump is also set to speak to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and NATO officials. Shortly before the call, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters that Washington, D.C. recognized there was an impasse in ending the war and that if Moscow was not willing to engage, then eventually the U.S. would have to say it was not its war.
The first major outcome that we wanted to see, which we were glad about, is that we wanted the Russians and the Ukrainians to put a real peace proposal on the table. What would you need to do in order to stop fighting? That happened. The second thing is they needed to agree to direct talks with one another. These sides hadn't talked in years. We thought that was a disgrace. That has now happened. But now, the talks have been proceeding for a little while. We realize there's a bit of an impasse. The proposal from the United States has always been, look, there are a lot of economic benefits to thawing relations between Russia and the rest of the world, but you're not going to get those benefits if you keep on killing a lot of innocent people. So if you're willing to stop the killing, the United States is willing to be a partner for peace.
The White House urged every Republican in the House of Representatives and the Senate on Monday to support President Trump's sweeping tax bill, which won approval from a key congressional committee on Sunday. The bill passed in a 17-16 vote, with all Democrats voting against it. The bill would extend tax cuts from President Donald Trump's first term, end taxes on tips and increase military and border spending. Analysts suggest the bill could add $3 to $5 trillion to the national debt, which is above $35 trillion and climbing.
This bill will be the single most pro-small business, pro-family, and pro-American worker legislation ever. If Democrats get their way and the Trump tax cuts are not extended, Americans will face the largest tax hike in history to the tune of $4 trillion. Republicans must not side with Democrats in helping them raise taxes.
Former U.S. President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones. His office confirmed the diagnosis after the 82-year-old sought medical attention for urinary symptoms. The cancer is hormone sensitive, allowing for effective management, though hormone therapy is not a cure. U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed sadness, while Kamala Harris offered words of support. Meanwhile, another former U.S. President, Barack Obama, said Biden will fight cancer with his trademark resolve and grace. And Prime Minister Modi wished a quick and full recovery to Joe Biden. In a social media post, he said, and I quote him here, "Deeply concerned to hear about Joe Biden's health, extend our best wishes to him for a quick and full recovery. Our thoughts are with Dr. Jill Biden and the family," unquote. In key European elections, Portugal's centre-right Democratic Alliance, led by Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, won the most seats but fell short of a majority for the third consecutive election. In Romania, centrist Nicu Surdan triumphed over hard-right George Simeon, signalling a pro-European victory. Meanwhile, in Poland, Rafał Trzaskowski leads the first round, but with a narrowing margin, the race remains tight.
In Portugal's snap election on Sunday, the centre-right Democratic Alliance AD, led by Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, won most seats but fell short of the majority mark for the third consecutive election in 3 years. The AD secured 32.7% of the vote and 89 seats, up by 9 from the last election. The Socialist Party and the far-right Chega were virtually tied in second place.
The Portuguese people have given a vote of confidence to the government currently in office, have given a vote of confidence to the Prime Minister who coordinates the work of this government, and say that the main alignment of the government's actions should be the program presented for election.
Montenegro has ruled out forming a coalition with Chega and plans to govern as a minority. However, analysts warn that without broader support, his government is likely to remain fragile.
If the government stands alone, it will be a very fragile government. The alternative is to imagine a kind of coalition like in Germany between the Social Democrats, or the ruling government, and the Socialist Party.
In a major setback for Europe's rising nationalist movements, a centrist mayor and former mathematics professor Nicosar Dan emerged victorious in Romania's presidential election on Sunday. Dan defeated hard-right candidate George Simion, who had aligned himself with President Donald Trump and opposed military aid to Ukraine. The election result was seen as pivotal for Romania's future direction, particularly in terms of its commitments to NATO and the European Union, reinforcing the country's pro-European stance.
I think Romania have to continue the external politics, including Ukraine. So including helping Ukraine and contributing in a balanced way in a European effort to sustain Ukraine.
Meanwhile, the first round of Poland's presidential election ended with a highly uncertain outcome, as Rafał Trzaskowski, the centrist mayor of Warsaw and the candidate of Prime Minister Donald Tusk's Civic Coalition, secured 31.3% of the vote. He was closely followed by Karol Nawrocki, a historian backed by the ruling Law and Justice PIS party, with 29.5% of the vote. The result was tighter than expected, reflecting Poland's deep political divisions. Trzaskowski, long seen as the favorite, has seen his lead narrow in recent weeks. The polarized political landscape sets the stage for a 10-second round scheduled for June. Rabindra Chauhan's report, DD India.
To West Asia now, Israel will allow a basic amount of food into the Gaza Strip, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said on Sunday. The decision followed growing international pressure to ease a total blockade that has been in place for more than 2 months. Israel's Foreign Ministry Director General said on Monday that Israel will begin letting trucks of baby food into the Gaza Strip.
Today, Israel is facilitating the entry of trucks with baby food into Gaza. In the coming days, Israel will facilitate the entry of dozens of aid trucks.
Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday said that his country would take control of the whole of Gaza as his military pressed a newly expanded offensive in the Palestinian territory. In a social media post, Netanyahu said the fighting was intense, but Israel was making progress. He said that Israel would prevent Hamas from looting the aid.
We have decided to provide minimal aid during the conflict, and of course we advanced in this way, and of course we discovered that Hamas was looting some of these aid, and so we stopped the humanitarian aid, and together with our American friends we decided to do a different method. The method is distribution points are secured by the IDF, preventing Hamas access and allowing American companies to distribute the food and medicine aid to the population.
And staying in the region, Iran says it's open to establishing a regional nuclear fuel consortium, reiterating that it would not stop enriching uranium. International media, including The Guardian and The New York Times, have in recent days reported that Iran floated the idea of forming a regional consortium to enrich uranium. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson denied that Iran had proposed the idea, but said that it was floated in the past by several countries without elaborating.
If such initiative is proposed, we would welcome it and could also participate in it, but it should be noted that such an initiative is in no way intended to replace Iran's uranium enrichment program.
Indonesia raised its alert to the highest level for the Lewatobi Laki volcano. This alert comes after the volcano erupted 8 times over the weekend. Country's volcanology agency said that Lewatobi Laki, located on Flores Island in eastern Indonesia, spewed volcanic ash between 3 to 5.5 kilometers high on Sunday. After that, the volcano erupted again on Monday, belching 1.2 kilometer high ash clouds. The agency said a 6-kilometer radius from the crater must be cleared. It warned the residents of the risk of cold lava flow from the crater once heavy rains took place. A U.S. official said on Sunday that investigators have identified a suspect connected to a bombing near a fertility clinic in the state of California and that the man held nihilistic ideations. The U.S. Domestic Intelligence and Security Service identified the suspect as 25-year-old Guy Edward Bartkus. The bomb detonated on Saturday in or near a car parked outside the clinic, which was operated by American Reproductive Center. 1 person was killed and at least 4 injured in the blast. Officials said on Sunday that no embryos stored inside the clinic were harmed by the blast. The agency believes that Bartkus died in the blast and that he had been trying to live stream the attack. His body was discovered near the vehicle. The agency was conducting a court-approved search at the suspect's home and tracking a possible manifesto as part of its investigation. U.S. media outlets reported that a website contained messages that appeared to be linked to the suspect, in which he laid out a loose argument against human life.
Very unexpected. It's a very actually busy tourist and art and entertainment town. Lots happens here, but not bombings. I mean, Coachella was a month ago, just 30 miles that way, Stagecoach. So this is unusual. It's very startling. We were sitting in our home, which is a mile from where it occurred, and it was very loud and the house shook. So that must have been one big bomb to be happening a mile away. So.
Right, now take a look at what else is making news around the world. 3 police officers were killed and 2 others wounded when a car bomb exploded near a police station at Al Mayadeen in Syria. According to reports, the explosion coincided with the launch of a security campaign. Kenya Wildlife Service and Leva Conservancy completed a rhino ear-notching mission to better monitor over 300 rhinos in the Leva Borana ecosystem. Using helicopters and vet teams, they tagged, measured and checked animals' health. Officials expect the population to grow by 50 in 5 years because of improved protection and habitat. Officers at a prison in Costa Rica caught a cat carrying drug packages. The feline had marijuana, crack paste and rolling paper strapped to its body. The drugs were seized and the cat was sent to animal health authorities for evaluation. India's Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth is in Malaysia's Langkawi. He's leading a delegation to the 17th edition of the Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition from Tuesday through Saturday. Indian assets including multi-purpose Dornier aircraft and Indian naval ship Kavaratti will be part of the event. Still to come on DD India NewsHour. An expert take on Operation Sindoor, how India foiled Pakistan's attempts to target the Golden Temple. And Home Minister Amit Shah launches a new portal for overseas citizens of India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears.
when supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. US President Donald Trump speaks to his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin as Washington, D.C. seeks to end the 3-year-old Ukraine conflict. The UK and the EU clinch a post-Brexit reset deal, agree on trade, fishing rights and defence cooperation. The UK Prime Minister calls it a win-win deal. Foreign Secretary briefs a parliamentary committee on Operation Sindoor, says the conflict strictly remained within the conventional military domain. And India's superior air defence system foiled Pakistan's bid to target Golden Temple, the holiest Sikh shrine at Amritsar, for sowing communal discord. Right, going back to the top story we are tracking here on DD India. Joining us is Ambassador Ajay Bisaria. He's a former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan and Canada and a former ambassador to Poland and Lithuania. Ambassador, welcome to this broadcast. First up, I want to ask you for your thoughts on this new term we are hearing, new defense doctrine. Now, we are told Operation Sindoor marked a turning point in India's defense doctrine, demonstrating tri-services synergy, strategic depth and technological dominance. And India foiled Pakistan's attempt to target the Golden Temple as well.
Yes, thank you. The new security doctrine, which is essentially Operation Sindoor, underlined it, which is essentially of saying that an act of terrorism is now an act of war and that India has reached a posture of zero tolerance to terrorism. It is really a security posture that India's had for a while. 2016 was when India had surgical ground strikes against terrorism. 2019 was when India executed airstrikes in Balakot as a response to terrorism. But now this has been given the shape of a doctrine. What was a posture is now a clear doctrine after the Pahalgam response with Operation Sindoor. And I think this is now here to stay. So when something takes the shape of a doctrine, it gets embedded into your strategic culture. And the message to the world and to the adversary is that for every Pahalgam, there will be an Operation Sindoor, and the next one will be more powerful than the previous one. And hopefully, with that assertion, there would be a deterrence set up against any such action by Pakistan.
Ambassador, what do you make of India's diplomatic offensive? Delegations comprising lawmakers and officials are being sent and they'll be fanning out across the world. What do you think would be their aims and objectives?
I think there'll be multiple objectives being served here. They would be talking about the new normal of a new security doctrine that India is now sharing with the world and particularly keeping in position for Pakistan. It will also be something that will underline India's unity, because these are multi-party, multi-faith, in a sense, delegations. And it will also be talking about Pakistan's terrorism, because Pakistan on its part is a propaganda state which will go about trying to tell the world that Kashmir needs to be internationalized, which will be trying to get its propaganda message across. So it will, this message, telling the world what the reality is, what the differences between India and Pakistan, and particularly highlighting the issue of terrorism and India's new kind of response. It will also underline a message that the world needs to get together on terrorism which the world has been slow to do, because this terrorism affects not just India. We've seen its impacts in multiple parts of the world, including in Israel quite recently.
Ambassador Bisaria, we saw the Foreign Secretary brief a parliamentary committee in New Delhi. Do you see a bipartisan consensus evolving? I mean, do you see a political consensus cutting across party lines on this issue?
I certainly see that, notwithstanding some noise that will always happen, some political gaming that will always happen on these issues. That is to be understood in a democracy. But I think the message globally will be a bipartisan one, because I think no political party in India is questioning the excellence shown by the Indian armed forces, and particularly the air power and the huge and clear superiority of the Indian force in the new technological domain, using missiles, drones, loitering munition. So I think there is and will be a bipartisan consensus, even if at the edges there'll be some political sniping.
Indeed. Ambassador, let's now talk a bit, if you will, about Pakistan. We are told that Pakistan's foreign minister is on his visit to China. What do you make of Pakistan-China relations, given what we know about China's role in the conflict in terms of giving Pakistan weaponry and other technologies?
Well, you know, what we saw in the recent episode, or the recent conflict, was an extraordinary new situation of what was clearly a collusive battlefield, because it was Pakistan using Chinese technology, Chinese weaponry, and 80% armed with Chinese defensive and offensive systems, and operating them, and even with some experts on the ground, we heard. But what it also demonstrated was the huge power differential between the Indian capability and the Pakistan-Chinese capability as exhibited by them. India had indigenous capability, integrating systems and platforms from different partners, including the French, the Israeli, the Americans, the Russians. And what Pakistan had was primarily Chinese and some Turkish equipment. But clearly, in this battlefield test, the Chinese equipment failed. So I suspect that Chinese will ask Pakistan what went wrong, and the Pakistanis will probably complain to the Chinese that they weren't given the best or the latest equipment. They'll probably be making a case for getting more advanced equipment to fight better. They'll also be making a case, I'm sure, about getting more economic help, because there was a lot of pushback at the IMF for the loan that was received by Pakistan. It could dry up because there are tougher conditions coming up, and Pakistan's terrorism behavior will be highlighted by India. So it will be looking to China, and as you know, it's a client state of China. It will be looking to the parent state for help, both militarily and economically, and I think that is what the visit is about.
Absolutely. And finally, Ambassador, if you zoom out and look at the region as a whole, the Indo-Pacific region in particular, what lessons can Taiwan, for instance, or Japan or the Philippines take from India, exposing, as you mentioned, the deficiencies in Chinese military hardware? All of them have ongoing disputes with China.
Certainly, yes. I think it will demonstrate that Chinese equipment is weak, it's vulnerable, and that it can be bested in a battlefield situation. And there will be many lessons to draw, military ones, strategic ones. In this last episode, China was supplying the equipment to Pakistan, but distancing itself diplomatically from the conflict. So it is a behavior that the other potential adversaries of China will study, and I think a lot of lessons will be drawn, should be drawn from this episode of how to deal with a very belligerent China, which is supplying equipment to many dangerous countries like Pakistan.
All right, we'll leave it there. Ambassador Bisaria, thank you for joining us and sharing your perspectives with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Moving on, in other news, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who is currently in the Netherlands, held discussions with strategic experts in The Hague on Monday. He also met with the Defense Minister of the Netherlands, Ruben Brekelmans, in The Hague, where he exchanged views on the respective security perspectives and challenges of both nations. The minister highlighted the benefits of forging a bilateral defense partnership. And now to an update on the Tiranga Yatra. Mehar in the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh witnessed an extraordinary display of patriotism as a grand Tiranga Yatra was organized, drawing enthusiastic participation from people across all sections of society. People marched through the streets, holding the national flag aloft and paying tribute to the valor of the Indian military. The event was graced by Indian Army officers and veterans who led the rally. Throughout the route, citizens showered flowers upon the marchers, offering a warm and heartfelt welcome to them. Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday launched a new portal for overseas citizens of India in New Delhi. Taking into account the significant technological advancements made over the last decade and the feedback received from OCI cardholders, Minister Shah said a new portal has been developed to address existing shortcomings and enhance user experience. While PM Modi said with enhanced features and improved functionality, the new OCI portal marks a major step forward in boosting citizen-friendly digital governance. Sagarmatha Sambad, a three-day multi-stakeholder dialogue forum in Nepal with the theme of climate change, mountains and the future of humanity, concluded in Kathmandu on Sunday with a call for action to protect mountains. The event stressed on a collective effort to ensure equitable and simplified access for developing countries, particularly those vulnerable to climate change, to international climate funds from bilateral, multilateral and alternative sources. Nepal will hold the next edition of the Sagarmatha Sambad in 2027. A total of 175 foreigners from more than 36 countries participated in the first edition of the Sagarmatha Sambad. Sri Lanka President Anurag Kumara Dissanayake said that the country remains incomplete in its freedom despite the end of the civil war. Speaking at the 16th National War Heroes Commemoration Ceremony in Colombo on Monday, he emphasized that the nation is yet to become a true victor until it secures lasting peace and justice. President Dissanayake said the country had paid a heavy price in blood and suffering, calling Sri Lanka a nation soaked in the tears of its people. The conflict between government forces and separatists in the northern and eastern parts of the island ended in May 2009 after nearly 3 decades. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. The EU cuts its Eurozone economic growth forecast for 2025. And Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari speaks to DD India on the margins of a BRICS meeting in Brazil. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. At the BRICS Transport Ministers meeting in Brazil, the group made a historical decision to reduce fossil fuel pollution worldwide. Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari represented India at the meeting. He told DD India that New Delhi will aim for turning carbon neutral by 2070, as announced by Prime Minister Modi.
ब्रिक्स मीटिंग में जो ब्रिक्स के मेंबर हैं उनमें ट्रांसपोर्ट मंत्रियों की कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई और उसका एजेंडा था कि ट्रांसपोर्ट मिनिस्ट्री को ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर में चाहे एविएशन हो, शिपिंग हो, हमारे रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में फॉसिल फ्यूल यूज करते हैं, इन सब में जो प्रदूषण होता है, एयर पोल्यूशन, इसको हम कार्बन को किस प्रकार से कम करें, कार्बन एमिशन को कैसे ख़त्म करें, ये विषय मीटिंग का था। और इसमें काफ़ी अच्छा चर्चाएं हुई और सब देशों ने मिलकर एक कॉमन रेजोल्यूशन भी पास किया है। उसके आधार पर आने वाले समय में बायोफ्यूल को बहुत बड़ा प्रोत्साहन देने का सब ब्रिक्स देशों ने एक संकल्प किया है और पूरे हमारे विश्व को हम प्रदूषण से मुक्त करें, इस प्रकार का भाव सबके मन में था और निर्धार था। एक बहुत बड़ा अच्छा हिस्टोरिकल रेजोल्यूशन हुआ है और मुझे लगता है कि इकोलॉजी एंड एनवायरनमेंट के क्षेत्र में प्रदूषण को कम करने की दृष्टि से एक बहुत बड़ी पहल ब्रिक्स देशों ने की है। आने वाले समय में जो प्रधानमंत्री जी का सपना है कि 2070 तक हम हिंदुस्तान को कार्बन न्यूट्रल बनाएंगे, वो निश्चित रूप से पूरा करने की कोशिश भारत भी करेगा, क्योंकि ब्राज़ील ऐसा देश है कि उसने पहली बार शुगर केन जूस से, मोलाइसिस से इथेनॉल बनाया और यहाँ फ्लेक्स इंजन पर पेट्रोल के जगह पर 100% इथेनॉल पर गाड़ियाँ चल रही है फ्लेक्स इंजन पर। मैंने यहाँ सब विजिट की, लोगों से चर्चा की, ऑटोमोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चर किया गया था, एसोसिएशन में बातचीत हुई और हिंदुस्तान में भी हम ये कर रहे हैं। ये पूरे अनुभव का हमको बहुत उपयोग होगा। एविएशन फ्यूल भी आगे चलकर एक एजेंडा है कि बायो एविएशन फ्यूल कैसे बने। इन सब के लिए एक नई दिशा हमारे सबको, हमारे डेलीगेशन को यहाँ से मिली है और मेरा विश्वास है कि निश्चित रूप से आने वाले समय में हिंदुस्तान में भी इस दिशा में प्रयास होगा। मुझे आज विशेष रूप से खुशी हुई कि यहाँ जो इंडियन कम्युनिटी है उनके साथ भी बैठकर वो यहाँ बहुत अच्छा कार्य कर रहे हैं, उनके साथ भी वार्तालाप करने का मौका मिला है। इतने दूर रहकर भारतीय संस्कृति को कायम रखते हुए अपनी कर्मभूमि ब्राज़ील को मानकर वो अपने कर्तव्यों का पालन कर रहे हैं और यहाँ भी उन्होंने अपनी संस्कृति और हमारी विरासत को कायम रखा है। इसकी मुझे बहुत खुशी है और आज ये सभी कार्यक्रमों से निश्चित रूप से मुझे व्यक्तिगत रूप से बहुत आनंद आया और मैंने हमारी सरकार की ओर से और प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की ओर से और हम सब की ओर से यहाँ के भारतीय समुदाय को शुभकामनाएं और शुभेच्छाएं दी।
The Wall Street's major indices opened lower on Monday as rising Treasury yields weighed on markets following Moody's downgrade of the US sovereign credit rating. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.4%, the S&P 500 declined 0.4%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.6%. On Friday, Moody's lowered the US government's long-term credit rating from AAA to AA1, citing surging deficits and the increasing challenge of refinancing US debt amid higher interest rates. The EU sharply cut its Eurozone economic growth forecast for 2025 because of global trade tensions sparked by Trump's sweeping tariffs. The EU Commissioner for the Economy announced that the 20-country single currency area's economy should grow 0.9% in 2025, down from a previous forecast of 1.3%.
The EU economy remains resilient despite the challenging circumstances we face. We expect moderate growth this year and an acceleration of growth next year. So EU's GDP is expected to grow by 1.1% in 2025 and 1.5% in 2026. The euro area economy is expected to grow by 0.9% this year and 1.4% next year.
In sports news, the Khelo India Beach Games 2025 kicked off in style with an opening ceremony in the Union Territory of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. A lineup of cultural performances and athlete parade were organized to showcase vibrant traditions and talents from various states. Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia and various sports dignitaries attended the opening ceremony. Athletes will compete for medals across 6 sports such as beach soccer, Penchak Silat, Sepak Takraw, beach kabaddi, beach volleyball and open water swimming. The tournament will run from 19th to the 24th of May. In tennis, Iga Swiatek slipped to 5th in the latest WTA rankings released on Monday, which will be used for this year's French Open draw. The Polish player, a former world #1, has been struggling since a triumph at the 2024 edition of the clay major. Aryna Sabalenka continued to occupy the top spot, while Coco Gauff of the US returned to her career-high ranking of 2 following her runner-up finish in Rome. Also, Jasmine Paolini, who won the Italian Open in front of a home crowd, moved from 5th to 4th, while Jessica Pegula moved from 4th to the 3rd position. Inter Miami suffered a devastating 3-0 defeat to Orlando City in the Major League Soccer tournament. The result makes it 5 losses in the past 7 games for Miami, who have conceded 20 goals in the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup semi-final series. Orlando extended their unbeaten streak to 11 matches and beat Miami for the first time with Lionel Messi in their lineup. Inter Miami will now shift their focus to Saturday's match against the Philadelphia Union. Royal Challengers Bengaluru have signed Zimbabwe seamer Blessing Muzarabani as a replacement for South African speedster Lungisani Ngidi. The change will come into effect from 26th May as Ngidi will join the South Africa national team for the World Test Championship final. His replacement, Muzarabani, has featured in 70 T20 internationals for Zimbabwe, claiming 78 wickets. In addition to his T20I exploits, Muzarabani has also played 12 test matches and 55 one-day internationals for his country. PV Sindhu and HS Prannoy will look to regain form when they lead India's campaign at the Malaysia Masters tournament beginning on Tuesday. Both Sindhu and Prannoy have endured a tough phase, struggling with form and fitness. The duo lost their respective matches against Indonesia and Denmark in the Sudirman Cup last month. Two-time Olympic medalist Sindhu will open a campaign against Japan's Natsuki Nedaira. On the other hand, Prannoy will face a tough opener against 5th-seeded Kenta Nishimoto of Japan. A function was held to honor Indian athletes in New Delhi. The event witnessed the presence of the High Commissioner of New Zealand to India.
This occasion, which is about supporting youth to realise their potential, and I offer my sincere congratulations to the Foundation. In New Zealand, we believe in the ability of sport to allow children to realise their potential, to develop up skills and qualities that will support them through their lives. Qualities like teamwork, like fairness, like respect, like character, like inclusion, like the quality of working with others. And we believe all of those qualities can be built up through sport. And that's why we're delighted to be here, part of this occasion this evening.
Lost and Found in Kumbh is a heartfelt family adventure comedy set during the mystical chaos of the Mahakumbh. Directed by debutant Mayur Puri, it is a magical, emotional and laugh-out-loud journey of family, identity and the strange and beautiful ways we find our way back to each other. Jaya Sinha spoke to the film's lead, British actor Katie Amis.
We're at the Cannes Film Festival, but we are talking about Kumbh. We just saw the trailer of the film Lost and Found in Kumbh, and I'm joined by the British actress Katie Amis. Welcome to DD India. I want to talk about how was your experience at the Kumbh? You went first, for the first time you went to India and straight away to the Kumbh?
It was pretty crazy, but it was absolutely amazing. It was just a life-changing experience. Obviously, I'd never even been to India before, so I had no idea what to expect. And the country just blew my mind. The people, the culture, the food, the animals, the scenery. It was just amazing, and you could tell what a spiritual, blessed country it is.
Lost and Found at the Kumbh, it's a film, it's a Hollywood production which tries to capture the immense grandeur of the Kumbh festival. You know how many people were there at the Kumbh festival? And what are your first thoughts when you were told that you were going to feature in this film about Kumbh, and it's a big cultural amalgamation of thousands of people, lakhs and crores of people attended that festival?
I was just excited. I don't get scared by things, I get excited. So maybe other people would have been apprehensive. I was like, I can't wait to get there. This is absolutely amazing. I'm going to have the best time. And that's what I did. So I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to do it.
Okay, tell us about what do you think about Indian cinema, Indian stories, Indian cinema. They're making waves at the Cannes Film Festival or around the world. So what's your experience? Did you manage to watch any Indian movie except your movie, or any Hindi film or English film you managed to watch? And what do you think about blockbuster Indian movie or masala movie? You had an introduction with any Indian films?
So I obviously know about Bollywood. I think in England we hear a lot about Bollywood, and obviously I live in Los Angeles, so we hear a lot about Bollywood. But in terms of like Indian cinema, there's a few classics that I want to watch. Since I filmed, I have been travelling ever since then, so I haven't had a chance, but there's definitely a list of them that I want to watch. And I just thought being in India was so inspiring, and I know that they have beautiful films that come out of there, and great stars and so many talented people. So I want to learn from them, and I need to do my research and hopefully go back to India and do lots more films myself.
Thank you so much for talking to us. So breathtaking visuals. This powerful movie captures the spiritual grandeur of Mahakumbh. With camera person Sumit, this is Jaya Sinha reporting for DD India from Cannes.
And that's all for this edition of DD India NewsHour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can get the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code that's now on your screen to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.